Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, first of all, my sincerest apologies for not doing a video in what I think has been 6 months. Lots been going on. Actually, yeah, I think January was the last one I put up. Sorry. In my last video though, I did touch on this subject because I did say I wanted to do another, its own video for this subject, but here it is. I want to talk about my dad passing away. And I want to talk about it because my relationship with my dad, I know, is not uncommon in today's world, because I had an estranged relationship. Estranged, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's it. I haven't seen my dad since I was 3, and I haven't talked to him in probably, I think maybe like 5 years. Maybe longer. It might be longer than 5 years, possibly. But I wanted to do this because I wanted to take some time to process everything that had happened, and I really wanted to understand what I was going through. But I wanted to do this because I'm hoping that if you see this, it can also help you if you're going through a similar situation with your own father who is estranged from you. I'll go into just very basic things about my dad, my parents really. My parents got married, I think 1971? In 1971. They were only married for 8 years, and in the 8 years they had 3 kids. They got divorced when I was 3. At least the divorce was finalized when I was 3. I think we moved. I remember this. We moved from Alabama to Tennessee because that's where my grandparents were living, and we were like right on the border between Tennessee and Alabama, so it was like real close. And so we lived there for, I believe, like 6 months to a year while the proceedings or the divorce was happening. I'm not really sure about the laws regarding Alabama, Tennessee, if you have to like wait 6 months before you petition the court, whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. But we lived with my grandparents for a while, and it was funny because right around the time that my parents got divorced, my grandparents also got divorced. So it was kind of awful. So my parents got divorced. We moved up to where, in the area that we live now, in the northern DMV area. And my dad came to visit then. So I was 3 years old. And after that visit, I never saw him again. He wasn't present in our lives. He never made an effort to be present. I think periodically throughout my life we've gotten Christmas gifts and we've gotten like checks and stuff, but nothing like, not like a concrete relationship. We never had that with him. So when I was growing up, I think my day-to-day life, I never really paid any attention to it. There were a couple of moments in my teen years, specifically. There were 2 incidences in my teen years that kind of always stuck with me. But the biggest one was when I was maybe 16 or 17. And my theater teacher, we were going somewhere. We were going to a meet, like a forensics meet. I used to participate in forensics and speech and debate and all that fun stuff. I did mostly, dramatic interpretation. But we were driving somewhere, and my theater teacher, who was also the coach of the forensics team, we were driving somewhere. I think we were going to a big meet or something, and we were having a conversation, he and I and the 2 people in the back, and we were talking about parents, and we were talking about dads, and I had made the comment. I was like, oh, I haven't seen I was like, I'm the worst person to talk to about like father-daughter dynamics because I haven't seen my dad since I was 3. And I remember my theater teacher saying this to me, and it was the first time in my whole life anyone had really said something along these lines to me. Like, I had said that, first of all, he was incredibly sympathetic to the situation, which was uncharacteristically odd of him. But he said to me, he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that. And then he said, but you know what, Carly, sometimes it's just better when they're not around. And I had never in my life, up to that point, had anyone ever say anything like that to me. But that was a really, that was a bigger moment for me than I really ever intended it to be, because throughout the rest of my adult life, that was the one moment that I would go back to be like, you know what, yeah, sometimes it is just better when they're not around. So, fast forward, I didn't invite him to my wedding. He never has seen his grandson. I'd sent him pictures when Corey was younger, but I'd never really sent any pictures like school years or otherwise. I had no interest in having a relationship with him because I knew he couldn't have a relationship with me. I knew that because my dad was not a person that knew how to be a parent. He could be your friend. I definitely saw that happening. He could be your friend, but steering the lives of young women, not gonna happen with him. So, I worked most of my adult life on, forgiving him for not being around. And I did. He's totally forgiven for that. I really do. I really do forgive him for not being around. So, my husband, throughout a bulk of our marriage, has always been pro or team go see your dad. He's always been like, let's go see your dad. Let's just go do it. And I'm like, no, I have no interest. I have no interest in seeing my dad. I don't want to talk to him. I have nothing to say to him. For any other reason that I've forgiven him for everything he's done. There's nothing that he could possibly say to me that would help me in any way. He can't really do anything for me. And I'm okay with that. Now, when my dad died, he was in a rehab facility, because he had been, he had had pneumonia a couple times and, got COPD from that. And we all knew that. My oldest sister had more of a relationship with him, so we were aware of what was going on. And when he died, my husband called me. My husband called me because he had seen on Facebook that, someone had posted something about it, and he was terrified. So Rob called me, and he was just like, honey, I'm so sorry, but I think your dad died. I was like, oh, okay. Let me call the place that he was at. I had the number. Ironically, it was very weird. Because I remember seeing it the day before, because we were cleaning to move, because we were trying to get out of our old house. And I remember seeing it the day before, and I thought, let me hold on to this, let me put it in my purse. So I had the name of the place, and did I have the number? It doesn't matter. So anyway, I found the number, and I called them. And I work in healthcare, so I know that there's very limited pieces of information that someone who answers the phone can give you. Because, HIPAA, big thing. I don't want them to violate it. I wasn't looking for it to. It's just, honestly, it is a matter of verbiage that you use. So I called the place, asked very general questions, and I found out that my dad did indeed die the day before. So, going forward from that, telling my sister was hard, because I had to tell her. She doesn't do social media. So she didn't know. So I had to tell her, and we had to talk. Me and my mom went over and we told her what had happened, and she felt really guilty. I always feel bad about that situation, that she felt so guilty that she wasn't there. And I felt bad for her because, she knew him the best. She had a relationship with him. I mean, so to speak. But you know, I felt bad for her because she honestly felt guilty for not trying to be more helpful. And I'm like, you have no reason to feel that way. You don't. You don't. You just don't. Because, you know, my dad wasn't around. We didn't have that kind of relationship at all. So, you know, I'm going to fast forward from there. So that day was hard. We all just kind of picked up the pieces and we moved on. But what was really difficult was that I had a really hard time moving on from the guilt that I felt. I felt guilty because I didn't feel bad. And it got to the point that I just felt so anxious all the time. I felt bad about not feeling bad to the point that there was something wrong with me. I seriously thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, how can I not have any inkling of a desire to mourn this person? Like even people that I'm like quasi friends with, when I have seen pictures or have heard news of their passing, I cry. I feel bad. Because, you know, death is so permanent. Death is so permanent. And it breaks my heart when other people, like someone who had a connection with me in some way, has passed. But I couldn't feel that way about my dad. It got so bad that I sought psychiatric help. And I saw this therapist maybe 2 or 3 times, but honestly, she was really good. She was, you know, I told her the whole situation, and I talked to her a couple times about, you know, how I felt guilty about not feeling bad. And she said to me that, you know, when I was talking to her about, you know, relationships I'd had with men in the past and what my relationship was like with my husband and his dad, she said to me that, you know, it sounds like you had a relationship that you really enjoyed and you really wanted with your father-in-law. And that's true. I've said in previous videos that my father-in-law and I were cut from the same cloth. Like, we had the exact same situation. Not to a T, but it was very similar. You know, he was raised by a single grandparent. I was raised by a single parent. Alcoholism runs in his family. Alcoholism runs in my family. We were both essentially abandoned by our parents. But, you know, being in my father-in-law's life for the last 10 years of his life was the best gift I ever could have gotten. On top of, you know, basically, Corey, my son, is the best gift I ever could have gotten. The relationship with my father-in-law was cherry on top, pretty much. But she understood what I was going through. She said, you know, she says, you know, you're honestly grieving in a way that is never talked about. It's never discussed because not a lot of people really understand it. She said, yeah, you feel bad because you don't feel bad. But the thing is, you've got to learn that, what did she say? It was really, really poignant and really awesome. Crap. I wish I remembered it. I should have written it down. But I think it was to the effect that, you know, you've got to remember that your feelings are your feelings, and you're allowed to feel how you feel. And time is going to be the best thing for you. And just give it time. You know, it's clear that the relationship you had with your dad was not perfect, but, you know, everybody's situation is different, and there's going to be days that are harder than others. And so I took everything that she said and I just went on with my life, and I lived my everyday, and I saw something on the internet that really kind of changed my perspective on everything. There is a designer I believe he's based in LA. He designs these really like spunky shirts he's a men's fashion designer. If you go on his site, it's called Sheehan Co. Sheehan